on Twitter. Of course, Ben was a part of that '04 draft class. Quite a class. Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Ben, the last to retire. So we were debating earlier who had the better career. Is it Ben or is it Eli? So Dan was on Team Eli, the right side of things, and Stephen A. defending his quarterback. Woody, where are you on this?
I got to go with Big Ben. You know, I think I heard Dan talk about moments. Moments is important. There's no question about it. You know, some of the greatest Super Bowl moments does come from Eli. You know, the Mario Manningham pass, that was unbelievable and all that. But part of greatness is a level of consistency that one sustains throughout their whole career. And when you talk about Eli Manning, I'm just going to pull up a couple things about Eli Manning. Okay. This is a guy who's never led the NFL in yards or touchdowns. He's led the NFL in interceptions. He led the NFL in interceptions 3 times.
Yes.
3 times.
Yeah.
That, I mean,
that's high reward. You that's a big MVP.
That's a big deal when you lead the NFL in interceptions 3 different seasons. Also, how many years did he miss the postseason? And so, like, when I just look at Big Ben over his career, yeah, he won. You know, how many Super Bowls did Big Ben win? 2.
And
won 2 Super Bowls, but it was the level of consistency throughout his career that I would give him the edge over Eli Manning.
Can I just ask Damien a quick follow-up question here? Damien, what would you say is the most storied franchise in NFL history?
The most storied franchise?
Yeah. Or at least in recent history, the last 2 decades. Which team would you say
Patriots.
that is? Really?
Patriots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who would you say is the greatest of all time in terms of quarterbacks?
Tom. Yeah, Tom.
Yeah. Super Bowl MVP. I see you smirking.
Yeah, Tom.
2 Super Bowls against who? Knocked off Tom and the Patriots.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen.
It's just a moment.
Yeah, I mean, their moment.
Flash.
Yeah, listen.
It's just flash.
Yeah,
I get it.
it's moment. But again, we're talking about the entirety of their career.
Yeah.
The entirety of their career.
Okay.
Listen. You talk about the moments against Tom.
Okay.
But we can't forget about the 3 seasons where he led the league in interceptions.
Okay.
We can't absolve him from that.
Sometimes the rings make up for it. Stephen A.
No, let Dan go. Go ahead, Dan.
I'm so confused by you, Wood, because you're talking about a level of consistency.
What is so confusing?
I'm about to tell you.
I just gave you facts here. What is confusing about what I just said?
I'm about to tell you. Are you ready for that?
Go ahead, man.
You talk about a level of consistency. The dude is top 10 in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Over the course of his career, that is the walking definition of consistency. And then you compare the ability or like the not going to the playoffs. Big Ben in his career had a defense that was not in the top 10 twice. Not in the top 10 twice. He had a top 10 defense 6 times. He had the number 1 defense in football 6 times. He had the number 2 defense in football 3 times. He had a top 5 defense 5 times. You can't sit here. We have to stop talking about quarterbacks and going, well, they went to the playoffs this amount of times, or they were in the playoffs, or they won this many games. It is a team sport. A quarterback is dependent on the pieces that are around him. He had a top 10 defense every time but twice. Of course, they're going to go to the playoffs a lot. Of course. What are you talking about? You guys can both pretend to be asleep. That's fine. I'll continue to have the conversation. I'll continue to talk. You guys talk about Eli Manning like he's an absolute bum.
Yeah.
You guys talk about Eli Manning like he doesn't.
No. Stop right there, Dan. Don't get sensitive right now. Don't get sensitive right now, Dan. Don't get sensitive.
We know Molly gonna get sensitive. We know Molly gonna get sensitive.
Like a hibernating bear.
What we gonna call you, Molly Orlovsky? That's what we gonna call you? I mean, listen. Here's the deal. Here's the deal, bro. The fact of the matter is, the question was about Big Ben compared to Eli. That's the discussion.
Then stop talking about the team.
Time out. It's not to excoriate Eli Manning and act like he was some scrub that wasn't worthy of praise or to disrespect the Manning. We don't do that when it comes to the world of football. They're the Mannings, for crying out loud, the first family of football. We get that. But here's the reality. When you compare him to Big Ben Roethlisberger, Big Ben Roethlisberger never went 6 times in 7 seasons without a playoff appearance. Big Ben Roethlisberger, listen, that's a big, big deal. When you look at Eli Manning, he spent more time outside of the playoffs than he spent in it.
Yeah, because he didn't have an O-line. He didn't have an O-line or a defense.
Okay, fine. So how did he win the Super Bowl twice? How did he win the Super Bowl twice?
Well, then he had a defense.
So it was good enough then.
I mean, stop, right? The pass rush and everything was Strahan and O.C. Umenyiora and all of those boys. He never had that. What I'm saying to you is this, Orlovsky. I'm not trying to get into dissecting the Giants. I'm not trying to dilute your point about what he was playing with. I'm saying at the end of the day, when we talk about Big Ben Roethlisberger, even though I do thank God that he has retired, it was time.
Got to get it in there.
Okay, it's the truth. Okay, it's the truth. But the point is, it doesn't negate the fact that I appreciate the greatness that he put forth on the field. It doesn't dilute the point that this dude was in the playoffs practically every year. Now, Mike Tomlin, we give credit to Mike Tomlin because 15 years he's been coaching. They never had a losing record. Well, who was his quarterback that whole time? That would happen to be Big Ben Roethlisberger. Okay. We can't ignore that.
Now you're giving Ben credit for that?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is at the end, when I look at the career of Big Ben compared to Eli, you're giving me reasons why Eli Manning may not have had an even better career, and I respect that. But in the end, I get to look at one versus the other and say, Big Ben Roethlisberger had a better career. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.